Hello everyone, I'm Theo MAHY-MA-SOMGA. This is Narrative Equity. Welcome back. Today I want to talk about communication. I've been really thinking about communication a lot lately, and when I saw wars like going everywhere, like I'm in Europe, like we have wars obviously in Ukraine with Russia, and the war in Iran with everything happening over there, I was really trying to understand why communication plays such a big role in human relation and obviously in business relationship down the line. The first idea that came to me in my research was the solipsism problem. So that problem says that we are trapped in our own experience, and the gap between my experience and your experience is the source basically of all conflict. And that idea, when I thought of it, it's obviously like a strong idea. But it's also like very easy to just think of it this way. Okay, we have a different relationship. We are like in our own body. In that way, we can't really understand one another. So I went down further, and the second idea I came up with, well, not mine obviously, but like in my research, is that conflict, if you think of it, they have always existed. Okay, I was looking at history, and like you don't have to be an historian to know that like history, within history, we had wars like from the dawn of our like existence basically. So if conflict have always existed, they might be a part of who we are. They might be a feature of our human condition and not just a problem that happens here and there. And if they are a feature of human being, the question I'm asking myself is, could we really avoid those conflicts? And if the answer is no, what the problem is like, if the answer is no, that means that like the entire self-help industry is selling us communication tools, but they're selling us a solution to a condition and not to a problem. So what are we facing? Are we facing a condition or are we facing a problem? And it's something that I was trying to like get my head around and to understand. When I see everyone posting about communication, they are like words that like just come up, you know, a lot. Nonviolent language, empathy framework, what else did I have? Yeah, active listening. Obviously, we need all of those. It's like, it's fundamental to be like an efficient person in like a human relationship. But can we just avoid conflict entirely? Or even though we can use those techniques, we will still be at some point facing a problem because it's part of our identity. If we look at it the other way around, conflict can be a natural consequence of separate human consciousness trying to share a world they each experience differently. To start like my research and to start thinking, I went straight to film like I do all the time. I went to movies. And one movie that really came up to me and like was like significantly an evidence of this thinking was Rashomon from Akira Kurosawa. It's a movie from 1950s, and if you have not seen it, you can like easily find it on the Criterion Collection, I know it is, and like also online you can find it. It's a movie that like basically you have 4 different eyewitnesses of the same event, and they all say kind of something different. They are not lying, they are saying things that are not the same as the opposite person. And basically what we know is like a man is dead, he came with his wife, she has been raped. There is a bandit, an outlaw, who is probably the one who did something, and there is a woodcutter that came by and like saw the scene. Apparently he saw the scene. So the dead man obviously can't say anything because he's dead, but he says his version of the story through a medium. So those 4 people are saying something, and they are sort of saying a different version of the story. The film shows us that we experience our interpretation of events filtered through everything we have ever needed to believe about ourselves to keep functioning. It's interesting because from that movie, obviously that movie at the time when it came out, because it came from Akira Kurosawa, one of the most acclaimed film director ever, if not the most, it created kind of a wave of answer because people were shocked. They understood something about themselves that they didn't really want to look at. Basically, what the film tells us is something happens, but we never really see and say the truth about something because we can't really know it. And something was created after that was the Rashomon Effect. It came from a book by Blair Davis, Robert Anderson, and Jane Walls. They say that significantly different perspectives on an interpretation of the same dramatic event by different eyewitnesses. Rashomon was just like the perfect example of like when you have a story, when you have a narrative that is given to you, you have to see where that narrative comes from and what makes that narrative true. That narrative will always be true for you within your heart, but is it true for everybody else? Probably not. We have to keep in mind the fact that we will always be seeing things differently than the person in front of us. And in business, that matters a lot. The psychological concept behind that is one by George Kelly called the personal construct theory. So we don't see the world as it is. We see through constructs that we built from our experience to make sense of our own reality, which I think is like super powerful to think of. It's like every single time, like basically we have our eyes open, we are constructing something, we are building something from our own experience to make sense of our own reality. Basically, we're all living in an alternative reality. You know, it's like the MCU all over again. So George Kelly says that. And George Kelly says something also super interesting. Humans behave like scientists, and I really like that. We behave like scientists because we always make hypotheses and we anticipate, which is very sad in a way because we never live in the present moment. We make hypotheses based on what we know from the future. We make hypotheses based on what we know about the past, and we anticipate based on what we want to know about the future, and we are never really here. We are always in motion. He added that like two people can have the same conversation, and most of the time you can have the same conversation. And I thought of it again last night when I was with my partner. We were thinking about something very mundane. How does our Monday morning will look like? And that we could not agree on. Not because we were like in a deep conflict, it's just because I had an idea, I had a vision in my mind, and I was just repeating myself like how the past months, weeks I've been working, and I knew exactly how this Monday morning will gonna play out. And she had the same in her mind, but it was not the same between both of us. And that happens all the time, not just in my relationship, but like everywhere. It is important for me to tie that to narrative equity, because obviously, if we think about a story that's been told, a narrative that's been created, we are sure that this story will not really travel well. Not because we are not good at it, just because it's part, as we just discussed it, of our human condition. So if we want to avoid that, what is the strategy to do? And I believe the first strategy is like to do less, to not like overcomplicate it, because the more complicated story will be, the more information will be lost, and the more changes we will see in the narrative that is presented. So what we want is to go straight to what matters and create something that is like really worth memorizing, worth keeping in mind, despite the fact that we know that down the line is going to be watered down. So for a founder, for like a dad, for anybody, it's about keeping in mind that like we don't have the same vision and experience of the person in front of us. So when we speak with an investor, when we speak with like a school teacher, when we speak with our mother, we will never have the same experience, and we can't implement our experience within the mind of the other person. We have to agree that we will always basically disagreeing on something. And in business, that's what makes us stronger down the line. If we keep in mind the person we have in front of us and not trying to just implement something that will work for us, but not for them. So that's what I leave you with today. Thank you for listening. I'm MAHY-MA-SOMGA. This was Narrative Equity. I will see you next week.